Hello everyone, welcome back to Retromancers. We're going to try adding a new segment to our channel tonight called Gameside Chat, because basically it takes a while to edit the main Retromancers episodes, and it would be a cool way to have a little bit more consistent content while showcasing some games that aren't really conducive to two-player Let's Plays. So basically what that means is part review, part information, and part just personal nostalgia. My own childhood experiences with some of my favorite games or games that just touched me personally for some reason. So hopefully you'll like it. It's like, the old fireside chats, but with games instead. And do keep in mind I am going to go into a lot of details with these games, so consider this your spoiler alert. Some will be familiar classics, and others might be niche titles that perhaps you've never heard of and I'd like you to give a try. The first game I want to talk about probably fits a little bit into both of those categories, and it's Golgo 13 for the NES. Now this is a game I used to play all the time because my dad was the manager of an appliance store that also doubled as a VHS rental store. So, that was good for me because in addition to videos, they also rented Nintendo games. So, I'd get preferential treatment and, yank the ones that were sitting on the shelves. And Golgo 13 was my go-to game back in the day. Now, I didn't know at the time that Golgo 13 was one of the longest running Japanese manga series about basically a James Bond-ish super sniper whose name and iconic imagery was tied to Jesus. All I knew is that the game was unlike anything I'd played at the time, where most games kind of have one screen or one kind of game mechanic throughout. This game had tons of different play styles. You had a side-scroller mode, first-person shooter mode, you can swim in the ocean, a little bit reminiscent of the crazy stage in the Turtles game, which I didn't like, but that's an aside. A flying scene, a sniper mode, and a kind of revolutionary for the time first-person dungeon scene, which was also the bane of my existence, which I'll get into later. Another thing of note is the music, which is awesome. Just listen to it. I'm considering doing a remix. In addition to the main theme there are a variety of tracks that kind of flesh out and give flavor to each of the different stages and lend a general air of mystery and tension, which I like. The graphics might be considered a little bland in some places, especially the side-scroller, but there's a lot of variety here and they just have a certain charm to them. Especially these story scenes, which have always stuck in my mind for some reason over the years. Perhaps it's because they have that simplistic anime style that's used in shows like Voltron or Saint Seiya, or games like the Phantasy Star series that I just really love for some reason. And what is also unique about this game is the plot, which was very serious for a game of this era. It involved Cold War intrigue, biological warfare, cloning, the Nazis, including Cyber Hitler, who is apparently moonlighting from his day job at Bionic Commando in Wolfenstein, and also just kind of took you to real-world places like Berlin or the Parthenon in Greece, which, was unusual to me and cool. And while we're on the subject of adult plot elements, I guess no discussion of Golgo 13 would be complete without mentioning the infamous sex scenes. Twice in the game, Golgo meets up with a female agent in a hotel room and one thing leads to another. The first of which involves the hilarious and awesome line, "Such a beautiful evening, and yet, out there, Berlin at night, an iron curtain just doesn't seem right." Even though this all was toned down from the Japanese version, it's still quite surprising that it got past the Nintendo censors, who were notoriously restrictive at the time. And as an interesting aside, during the sex scene, Golgo replenishes his health. Makes me wonder if games of the Grand Theft Auto pedigree were thinking of this when they employed that mechanic in their games. That all being said, these scenes are, in my opinion, pretty tasteful, kind of like something out of a film noir movie, and the romance that leads up to them is tinged with darker sentiments like hopelessness and existential angst. Now, I probably wasn't even old enough at the time to be thinking about things in a sexual light anyway, but in my child mind I do remember thinking Cherry Grace and Eve, kinda hot. Anyway, speaking of films, this whole game is structured in relation to them in an interesting way. From the characters in the game credits appearing like a cast, to each act of the game being named after a famous old movie, some of which have a loose reference to what's going on at the time. For instance, All About Eve, involving a chapter where you deal with a character of the same name, and The Third Man, which involves surprise appearances. Also, instead of a typical live system, the game gives you 52 lives, as if they were episodes incrementing in a limited run TV series. And that may sound like a lot of lives, but trust me when I say you're going to need every one of them. Make no mistake, this game is brutally, spine-crushingly difficult. I never could beat it as a child, and it's only a slight exaggeration to say that several times this game nearly brought me to tears of rage, manly tears, in the effort of beating it to make this video. There are several times in the POV gunfight scenes where you'll die so fast that you don't even know what happened. And the mazes that are featured in the game are insane, sadistic, Daedalus level madness. You got your pitfalls, you got your nearly impossible to dodge lasers, you got your jumping samurai men, you got your women throwing who knows what, and let us not forget that this is in the age before the internet, so you just gotta whip out the pen and paper, shining the darkness style. And let me tell you, with this game, that is not easy. This is what killed me back in the day. I just could never get out of the Act 7 dungeon. Just look at it. And it's not like the rest of the game is a walk in the park either. There's some dirty tricks going on here. Like I remember the first sniper scene that you're in, you're looking at this building, you think the guy's in it, because why not? But no, he's not there. He's in some other building like 8 miles to the east that you just gotta float over to. Alright. And the generic enemies just walking around can slice you to ribbons as well. You find yourself just creating these weird and sometimes branching patterns when you see people. Like, okay, KGB agent, that means I have to walk forward approximately 3 meters, jump super high like an idiot, and hit him with a kick on the way down jump. That's how you do it. Or weird security elevator lady. If she spawns high, shoot her 3 times and then run and jump kick her. If she spawns low, jump over her ass. If she's floated up in the meantime, turn around, see plan A. If not, keep running. And also, there's absolutely nothing worse than finally getting to another act, breathing a sigh of relief, only to die shortly after and be taken back to before that act started. The promise of safe haven torn from your grasp without reason or explanation. Even after all this hell, however, there's just something about this game I'll always love. And let me tell you, when you finally pull the trigger on that custom M16 one last time, glorious. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about this game. Thank you for spending your time with me and Golgo 13. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you join us for the next Gameside Chat.